Hey guys, it's your girl Katara here, and tonight we're going to be reviewing Sunday night's episode of The Walking Dead, Season 10, Episode 7, entitled Open Your Eyes, in which, unfortunately, we do lose one of our favorite characters, Siddiq. So let's start the conversation. Sunday night's episode was directed by none other than fan favorite Michael Cudlitz, aka Abraham, and I'm really happy to say that this is one of my favorite episodes of the whole season so far. So let's go ahead and move on to the topic of the day, what exactly the episode was about. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. So last week I totally called it when I said that Carol was taking the kidnapped or the captured Whisperer back to Alexandria. That was where I was really hoping that Whisperer would bump into Lydia somehow, and it almost happened if it weren't for him taking the wrong plant and unfortunately dying. It wasn't unfortunate that he died because he was a Whisperer and he had a hand, possibly had a hand in the murder and slaughter of our favorite characters last season. But I'm saying it's unfortunate because I really would have loved to see the look on his face when he saw Lydia and he realized that Alpha had lied to him and the rest of the Whisperers. But that is going to come in a later time when we'll talk about Lydia and the Whisperer that she did encounter on account of Carol's reckless behavior. So, here's a question that I have for you guys. Do you think Gamma will keep to herself that Lydia is still alive, or do you think she'll go back to the Whisperers and poison the minds of each Whisperer one by one, therefore turning them against Alpha? Which one do you think is going to be? I think she's going to spill the beans, and that's what I feel. That's what I'm hoping happens, is that Gamma realizes that she sacrificed her sister for what Negan would call a lion. So excuse the language. As of right now, I don't think that she's going to do that. Because if we saw in the preview of next week's episode, we saw her running into the forest and she was crying, she was alone, and yeah, I think that's gonna lead to her breakdown and her mind turning against Alpha if she hasn't already. So let's get to the meat of the episode. Let's get to Siddiq and Dante. So I knew that Siddiq was going to bite the dust in this season, but I didn't know it was going to happen this soon. I thought it possibly would happen more likely around February or March of next year in the second half of the season, but I didn't know he was going to die this soon. And when that scene came about and Siddiq had his back to the door when Dante came in, I was kind of freaking out, and I was expecting Dante to use a knife. I did not expect him to put Siddiq in a chokehold and take the life out of him that way. But when it comes to Whisperers, I guess anything is possible. You never know. Just expect the unexpected with Whisperers. And I do know that some people were actually surprised that it was Dante, and I'm going to talk about that right now. Because when you have read the comics, then you expect Dante to be a good guy. You don't expect him to be a Whisperer. And I can understand why there was a lot of people that were confused, or there was a lot of people that was taken aback by what happened with Dante, or that Dante was a Whisperer. I can understand the confusion about that. But to those of us who have not read the comics, we are not at all surprised, because the behaviors, the mannerisms, the way that Dante would talk, that led us to believe that he was a Whisperer, that he was a bad guy from the get-go. The way that he was talking to Siddiq about Rosita in last week's episode, how he was saying that he would check up on her and make sure that she was okay. The way that he said it was very creepy, and that was one of the reasons why I believed him to be a Whisperer, and the fact that something was obviously mentally wrong with that character. Just wanted to point that out. I think that Siddiq's realization that Dante was a Whisperer didn't come as a surprise to him at all. as he was putting the pieces together since the beginning of the season. While he was looking at Dante's mouth, he was listening and watching Dante's mannerisms, and the fact that Dante has no sense of personal space at all led him to believe that Dante was a whisperer. Also, I think of him coming to the conclusion that he had no part in the death of any of our favorite characters or any of his friends, that he wasn't weak, that Dante actually held him down and made him watch his friends die. I think his conscience was finally clean, and he could pass away knowing that he did do everything that he could to help out his friends and the people of the communities, that none of this was his fault. He had no hand in this whatsoever, and I feel that in a sense made his death or his passing easier, unfortunately. I liked a lot of things about this episode, from the pacing to the performance to the music to the ambiance and the interaction with the characters, the chemistry basically. I like the chemistry between the characters, including Siddiq and Dante, because even though they bumped heads a lot, those two actors, Avi Nash and Juan Javier Cardenas, they worked very, very well together. And those two, even though Dante freaked me out a lot of times, he actually is one of my favorite characters because of Juan's performance as the creepy guy who unfortunately killed Sadiq and made him watch all of his friends die in the barn. One of the things I like most about this episode, though, is the interaction between Aaron and Gamma. Those scenes were some of my favorite scenes of the whole episode, due to the fact that Gamma was a die-hard whisperer. If she's gonna sacrifice her own sister to save Alpha, and now she's kind of on the fence. I like that. I like her second guessing not only Alpha but her own intentions and her actions in regards to Aaron and in regards to learning intel about the communities. And those are my favorite scenes of this episode. So that's what I liked about this episode. One of the things I definitely did not like about this episode was how Carol used Lydia, and unfortunately, in her doing so, we have possibly lost a really great ally in Lydia. And I think that Carol using Lydia for her own purposes and trying to get some whispers to find out that Lydia is still alive, I think her using Lydia like that came at a terrible cost, not only to Lydia, but also to the memory of Henry. And that's one of the things I definitely did not like about this episode. Not only that, but obviously the loss of Siddiq, who is a fan favorite, who's one of my favorites. And to be honest, on a side note, I'm not really feeling the whole Rosita and Gabriel romance. I think that is something that probably should have never happened. I do not support that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not feeling that romance between Rosita and Gabriel. I think that Rosita, even though there is supposed to be a fling, she should have stayed with Siddiq. That's my opinion. Okay, so on to next week's predictions. So I think that Gamma and Aaron will become closer, and Gamma will be more open with her past and what's going on with Alpha. She might be more open to discuss some intel or discuss some plans with Aaron about what's going on, since she has been betrayed by Alpha with the lie that Lydia is dead. That's one prediction that I have for next week's episode, as well as Dante. We've seen in the trailers and in the previews of Daryl punching somebody, and it's going to be Dante next week. This Sunday, it's going to be Dante that he's going to be punching and punching and punching. That's another prediction I have. And I also predict that Lydia will not be searching for the Whisperers. She's going to the woods like she said, but she's going to be going to the woods off on her own, trying to find out where she belongs. She's not going to go to a community. She's not going to go to the Whisperers. She's just going to be going with herself. And thanks a lot, Carol. Alright, so in conclusion, this week's episode was full of heart-pounding moments, and I definitely enjoyed the wild ride that it provided. And I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the mid-season finale, which is airing next week, the 24th. I will definitely be there. I will not be square. I'm such a nerd. And thank you guys very much for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I love you guys. Peace out. Namaste. Love you guys. Have an awesome weekend, or have an awesome week. Bye.